Hello everybody, welcome back to Gambito Gaming. Today we are taking a look at another Iceberg. We are actually doing the second part of a two-part Iceberg video that only took me 9 months in between to make the videos for. But here we are nonetheless, talking about Animal Crossing today, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Where can I find Tom Nook? That's right, I made a part 1 to this, so if you'd like to see that, it'll be linked either on the screen now or in the description below. Today we're looking at the last 3 layers of the official but also unofficial Animal Crossing Iceberg. Let's get started with layer 3. Frillard passed away. Frillard first appeared in Animal Crossing City Folk, and he was actually a pretty rare character to run into in that game. He was Dr. Shrunk's mentor, and if that says really anything, it says he just sucks at comedy. In Animal Crossing New Leaf, he is mentioned after you talk to Dr. Shrunk, after you received an emote from him. He actually said that he misses Frillard. So this could really mean one of two things. He's either completely off the grid, no cell phones, no 4G, no 5G, no 6G, or he's just dead. How about that? Given that he already appeared old in City Folk, I'm going to say Frillard officially passed away in my headcanon. Thanks. Dodos. This entry is pretty broad and stupid. This entry is pretty broad, so it could be talking about a number of things. I know for one, for sure, 100% thing, there's dodos in Animal Crossing, and they run the airline in New Horizons. A little fun fact about dodo birds, they went extinct in the 1600s due to humans hunting them. So the two that appear in Animal Crossing New Horizons are probably pretty fucking old. You know what? The fact that they're the only 2 dodo birds that have ever appeared in an Animal Crossing game makes me think they are actually the last of their kind. Are we witnessing an extinction of an animal in a simulation that represents a real-life animal who is already extinct? Am I supposed to kill them? Tortimer is a puppet figure. This entry claims that Tortimer, who serves as the mayor for the first half of the games, is actually a false idol. Tortimer is just a puppet mayor who's really being controlled by some freak behind the scenes. This and the shady shit we talked about Boondocks in the last video, it makes me think Tortimer shares a little bit of certain characteristics to a certain bush, if you know what I mean. Say what you will, but Tortimer died doing what he loved, not giving an absolute single fuck about being mayor. Tom Nook is behind everything. We've proposed the idea that Tortimer is a false idol. Who could be behind that? It's Tom Nook. Of course it's Tom Nook. The second he kneecapped all of our 5-year-old brains with the idea of death straight out the womb. We all knew, man. There is supporting evidence, though. A Reddit post revealed that someone received a letter in Wild World on DS that suggested Tom Nook was treating them like a slave. You know, guys, I'm starting to notice something about Tom Nook. Yeah, I'd stay away from him if I were you guys. Yeah, now he doesn't look that nice anymore. I'm a steer clear of Tom Nook, to be honest. Gyroids are haniwa. So the gyroids in Animal Crossing are just these little small sentient little objects you can find, and you usually dig them up and they make little small noises if you put them in your house or in your town or up Ozzy's asshole. Overall, the gyroids in the game are pretty harmless and they serve as good decoration or a pretty cool way to set up a little tune in your house. They do kind of have a little bit of a creepy aura about them. I can't tell if it's just the gaping holes for a face or the fact that they just hum and chant a little bit. Many players actually believe the gyroids represent real-life markers called haniwa. Haniwa is described as being used during funerals, mainly to mark the area where the graveyard began. Therefore, if you do end up finding Tortimer, do him a solid, set up a few gyroids around his grave so Tom Nook doesn't drunkenly stumble over his grave again at 2 a.m. Haunted paintings. Haunted art is a set of items that Red sells. You know, Red, the guy. the man. For the very few pieces of art Red does allow you to buy from him at one time. A lot of these are fake and also known as haunted art. Basically, if you want to get this haunted art, you're going to have to go out of your way to purchase a fake version of the real painting. There's only a select few pieces of art that are like this. Some of the other fake paintings that also have a real one are not haunted. So there's only a few in the game that are classified as specifically haunted paintings. So here are a few examples of some of the haunted art you can get in the game. The fake wistful painting just shows her eyes as closed, which honestly feels pretty haunted to me. The fake informative statue features a faint glow. Not really sure how they got to classify that one as haunted from just a faint glow, but there's a fake ancient statue whose eyes will also glow. Again, the glowing. Overall, I think these items are cool, but I think conceptually the idea was better than they actually executed it. For example, Here's a painting I did that I would classify as a haunted painting, and I put it in my video game. That's terrifying, right? I feel like they could have gone further with some of these paintings to make them more haunted. Lloyd. Lloyd is a gyroid who asked for money donations for city projects in New Leaf, and he even appeared in the auction house in some of the games. Many find this specific gyroid to be disturbing because he has soulless eyes like the other gyroids, but more specifically to Lloyd. When you approach him, he starts to gyrate faster and faster as you get closer. This was pretty disturbing because small things moving quick do not equal fun and brain. There's actually even speculations that Lloyd and the villager Coco are connected somehow. They were made and carved out from the same fucking tree. Creating your own constellations. In Animal Crossing Wild World, you can get creative as fuck and make your own star constellations. You can only see your constellation at certain days and times in the year, and it also depended where you place the constellation in correlation to the observatory. You can even see your friends' custom constellations when visiting towns. They went even further with City Folk in the fact that Katrina can reference these custom star constellations and relate them back to your future. And I am so sure nobody got any bad ideas when creating these constellations. And I'm also 100% sure that there are not hundreds and millions of dicks made out of stars hanging over people's Animal Crossing towns at this very moment. Red and Tom Nook are yokai. If you ever played this Pokemon ripoff, then you know yokai are supernatural entities that appear in many different forms. The word yokai actually refers to the kanji for apparition, mystery, and suspicious. Gotta say, Red and Nook check all of those boxes pretty much 10 times over. Honestly, my man's just out here trying to make a quick buck, and y'all are quick to call him a fucking yokai, so, you know, he's just out here selling boosted art. It's not like he's fucking selling drugs or something, man. And fucking this guy over here, he's just trying to make a living, alright? Who else are you gonna take your 7,455th sea bass to, huh? But I see where this entry is coming from. I totally see Tom Nook and Red just being estranged spirits that manifest in the way of greed and deception. KK Dirge. I think this track is probably one of the creepiest in Animal Crossing, and it rivals some of the disturbing songs that you can find on like Earthbound and stuff. It almost sounds like an acid trip. Even the fucking album cover is scary. Also, there's what sounds like gunshots in the song. Did you guys hear that too? I've listened to the song a lot, and I think my running theory is that KK is actually a drug lord. You know, the likes of Tim Allen pre-Home Improvement. And man, someone caught him lacking one day while he wrote this song, KK Dirge. And the gunshots in the song were the same ones that ended KK's life that night. Impossible ecosystem. This one references the fact that if we really break down the economy of Animal Crossing, it's a system that would fail pretty much day one. First of all, Tom Nook definitely has everything everyone needs from the beginning. Just look at him. We've covered he's a dirtbag, so he just makes everyone work for it like some weird fucking fetish. Not to mention the fact you can literally sell the grass on the ground to my man. And this little punk will be there every fucking time to buy it. Why does Tom Nook have unlimited bells to give out? And if he does, then why is he asking for hundreds of thousands of bells in repayment for your house? What a fucking asshole. Just give me my free house, you fucking tool. I'm human. Layer 4. Gyroids are soul jars. This entry suggests that gyroids are actually soul jars. Soul jars are basically an object that someone's soul can be tied to after they pass. For example, in Lord of the Rings, we find out that Sauron's soul is bound to the ring. If this theory is true, that means every time you put a gyroid up in your house, you got some guy named Leonard's soul just chilling. Dude, if he keeps making that beat, he can stay rent-free. I got him. 3:33 a.m. 3 a.m. is just widely known as the darkest point in the night, the darkest before it's the dawn.
The dawn is coming.
Or it's better known as the witching hour. You might run into something like this at 3 a.m. if you ventured outside. Animal Crossing is no different in the fact that 3 a.m. is by far the strangest time to play Animal Crossing. If you go inside to a TV in New Leaf or New Horizons at 3:33 a.m., you can find a broadcast has been taken over by aliens. This is reminiscent of the old creepy broadcast takeovers, you know, the Max Headroom ones. It's kind of especially creepy that this takes place at 3:33 specifically. Coincidentally, 3:33 is also half of 666, which means if you watch this broadcast, Lucifer will actually disguise himself as an infinite string of sea bass, and you can never catch anything else. So absolutely nothing changes. New Leaf 7 p.m. music, negative aura. Animal Crossing New Leaf in my opinion, has the best music in an Animal Crossing franchise. It's definitely got more of the somber tracks of the series. I feel like New Horizons is definitely more adventurous and high tempo in some of those tracks. New Leaf 7 PM is a great example of one of the more melodic tracks in the game. The song is slow and somber and just has an overall feeling of like bittersweet. Many people describe a worrisome feeling listening to it. To me, it's just a good track, and that's really it. I can definitely see how people could invoke a sad feeling, and even one that's a little bittersweet, but I'm not getting creeped out by this shit, son. The gyroid face curse. This is actually based on a real thing that happens in the game. You can fall upon a creepy curse you can endure in the original GameCube game. If you're traveling to another player's town and you reset your GameCube while you're connected online to their town, not only will you lose all your items, you'll be cursed with this eerie gyroid face. This face is fucking terrifying, specifically on the villager too. I don't think it's so bad on Coco and the gyroids, but knowing what the villager's face used to look like, and now knowing it's just black gaping holes, I don't know, man. It seems like the game steals the villager's soul and just leaves a fucking empty husk. What a creepy thing for Nintendo to include to deter players from resetting while connected online. I mean, it's fucking disturbing, dude. Gulliver is a traveler's ghost. He's been in the series since the very beginning, and man, he's been at the helm of all sorts of vehicles. When it comes to Gulliver, you can always count on him to crash land on your island over and over and over and over and over, really over again. Have you ever really thought about why he keeps crashing? Maybe it's because Gulliver is actually a longing spirit who passed on his travels, and he's just trying to relive his life over and over until somebody puts his spirit to rest. Specifically in New Horizons, he calls upon his crew, but you never see them, do you? This is probably because he's being picked up by nothing, only to fade away until the next time you see him on the beach. So really, how do we put Gulliver to rest? You gotta take a deal out there with you next time. Maybe load up 1 or 2 browns, just in case. He might overpower you. He might get the gun from you. Black skybox. I couldn't find anything that clues to what this entry actually is talking about, but I assume that it's speaking of the multitude of black backgrounds and black areas that surround characters throughout the series. When you first start an Animal Crossing game, you're usually greeted by KK Slider, just strumming on his little acoustic and a dark background behind him. I always thought that room was a little creepy. Is it supposed to be your attic? Why is KK in my fucking attic? Get out of there, dude. It's hot up there. How long you been in there? Are you living in my attic? This entry could also be talking about anytime you're traveling to a new area or just opening a door and it's just blackness before you enter into a new area. I don't know if the black skyboxes are supposed to represent anything further than just development limitations, but it does just give a blanket, eerie feeling to the sense of the game. When you enter a building, it's just blackness. Bergsala Summer DS. Bergsala is a Swedish company that sells Nintendo merchandise, and around the time Animal Crossing Wild World released, they ran a promotion where they sold 2 very customized Animal Crossing themed DSs. The themes were winter and spring themed. These were won as prizes, and they're still one of a kind item that just somebody has. Could be the winner, they could have sold it, they could have given it to somebody. Who knows? However, if we know anything about anything, we know there's 2 more seasons that weren't accounted for. And there's proof that an Autumn DS theme was made, but it was offloaded to a random Swedish secondhand game store where it was sold and never seen again. And that's on God. Then, this very exclusive Summer Bergsala DS, Nintendo DS, Nintendo Dual Screen Summer Edition, was never confirmed to have existed. So was there only 3, or is this mysterious 4th one just somewhere out floating out there, just existing as one of the rarest video game consoles to have ever existed? Or is it a fucking lie? I don't know. Maybe we'll call up Bergsala and see. Wisp's Master. In the original game for GameCube, Wisp will visit players on certain nights in order to help them gather up 5 spirits. He actually pleads with the player a lot, and sometimes will even mention his master and the fact that he'll get upset if he returns without his spirits. And every time Wisp visits, he gives a different reaction. Sometimes he even changes the name of his master. It's fucking weird, man. For example, Wisp could say, "If I don't, the big smelly will punish me horribly." That one particular is a bit more lighthearted, but some of these names of his masters are a bit concerning. Lord Smarty Pants, the Giant Lens? That just sounds like a giant Terraria eye or something. That's fucking creepy. The Ghost League, it's just fucking Wisp just straight up works for a baseball league manager. The Big Smelly, we mentioned that one. The Controller, that just sounds horrible. And the Stumbler. What is this, Tom Nook being drunk at 2 a.m.? Regardless, whatever Wisp has himself tied up to, it doesn't seem likely that he can get free from it because he keeps showing up. Seems like Wisp is at the bottom of the soul gathering pyramid scheme, and I don't want to get fucking involved at all. Curvature of the planet. Some Animal Crossing players have gone a bit existential and started to speculate where the Animal Crossing series actually takes place. Some players think this is just Earth, or another version of Earth, and some people just think it's just another planet and another universe somewhere. Nothing's ever been officially confirmed, but there is a couple of people who went through the extreme trouble of doing very hard math to determine that the Animal Crossing planet couldn't actually exist due to gravity or some shit. I don't really know the conclusion, as I got lost as soon as they started talking about the math. But here's, I'll put a link to the website down below, and you should go read it because it's pretty interesting. Uncanny KK slider. For a few of these, the person I grabbed this list from Reddit had their own explanations for a few of these. So I will be reading some of them, and then afterwards I will give a little bit of my opinion on it. But hey man, you can't catch me fucking writing 30 entries myself. I had to get a little help from the homie. These words, he provided these with the post. I don't know this guy, but I'll throw his ad up right here, his Reddit thing I grabbed it from. Alright, there you go. There are several things about KK Slider that make him odd compared to other characters in the game, most of which pertain to his appearance. You might not notice it because he's sitting down with his guitar most of the time, but KK Slider's proportions are different to any other character in the game. To make a chibi-style character look natural sitting down in that position all the time, KK Slider actually has slightly longer limbs in the torso, which has a side effect of making him look a little more realistic and normal in comparison to the characters around him. The villagers in the GameCube game can comment on the strangeness of his appearance as well, but the way they describe him only raises more questions. They don't talk about his nudity or his relative tallness, but they do talk about his face. Specifically, they call KK Slider dog face, which is an odd way to describe someone that is a dog, especially if the person saying it is also a dog or is otherwise neighbors with one. The theory? Well, it goes like this. KK Slider is not a dog, or at least he wasn't always one. Some people seem to think that somehow KK Slider was once a human being who was transformed into a dog, which explains why his proportions are so different to everyone else's. Well, whatever the fucking case, KK Slider is weird. I also personally noticed that when KK was ever standing, he did look a little uncanny, but just a tiny bit. However, ever since Animal Crossing New Leaf, and I think every entry since then, the villager also got the longer limb treatment, which could give cadence to the fact that KK was actually a human in that universe. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Is KK a real dog or nah? Chestnut. A couple characters are found on the cutting room floor for the original Animal Crossing game, and one of these characters was known as Shocky, or otherwise known as Chestnut. Chestnut, along with another cat character, can be found in the game files and can even be spawned in-game using Game Shark codes. You may just chalk this up to being scrap villagers, but Chestnut's game code suggests it was going to be a special type of character. Part of the code suggests that burying may have been something you did with this character. Considering it's a squirrel and the fact you dig a lot in the game, it's not the most far-fetched idea ever. Although this could just be a weird coding note, and Chestnut could have just been another planned villager. Club l.o.l gyroids. In Animal Crossing New Leaf, you can unlock Club l.o.l, or Club l.o.l, or Club Laugh Out Loud as a public works project. In here, you can watch DJ KK perform, and you can also watch Dr. Shrunk fucking absolutely bomb on stage. If you actually arrive before 8 p.m., you can even customize the Club l.o.l gyroids that are found at the front of the stage. If you have any gyroids in your pockets, you can replace all 3 with any gyroid you have. This allows for a pretty cool little hidden layer of customization in Club l.o.l. I couldn't find anything further that was referencing to, and so if anyone has any more info, drop it in the comments. I'm not super familiar with Club l.o.l. I didn't hang out there because I heard there was stuff going on with DJ KK and drugs. He was selling drugs. End of time. Some players choose to use time travel to manipulate Animal Crossing in ways to benefit them, usually financially. What happens when you push the time travel to its absolute limit? I'm talking hop in the DeLorean with the windows rolled all the way up tight because of how far we are going in the future. Our shit's gonna burn up otherwise. So what happens when you time travel to the final date on your system's clock and then load up Animal Crossing? Not really anything. Nothing, in fact. That is the short of it anyway. New Year's events will still continue as normal, and villagers will welcome a new year. Nobody dies, and it keeps going. The player character is an empty vessel. I couldn't find anything superficial for this entry. I think it's just the idea that the villager can turn into an empty vessel type of humanoid with the aforementioned gyroid face curse. This literally makes you encompass somebody who is just a shell of a human being. And it's kind of fucking creepy if you ask me. I don't like this thing. I hate it. I hate Shigeru Miyamoto for coming up with it. I know where he lives. I do. Layer 5. Animal Crossing takes place in Purgatory. So there's a running theory that in the Animal Crossing games, the villager, i.e. the small child you play as in early games, is actually just dead, freshly dead, to make that point, because Animal Crossing is believed to be your character's purgatory. And if you aren't familiar, Purgatory in many beliefs is an area that serves as a waiting room of sorts before it is chosen if you enter heaven or hell after you pass on. Some believe that since the game starts on a mode of transportation to your town, i.e. your purgatory, that your character must have recently died. For me, I like to think my villager got punted by Randy Orton a little too hard in the head and woke up to just a turtle driving him to the middle of fucking Kansas. This theory runs deeper when you think about the idea of purgatory is to keep you busy, make you think not too existentially about what you're doing. Notice how there's always something you can be doing in the game. What about the fact you can never actually leave your town? And when you technically can leave your town, you just arrive at a clone of your own purgatory. Do these animals actually even exist? Or are they just small Joe Rogan DMT jesters that pop up when your body starts decaying in the real world? Where's Keanu Reeves when you need him, dude? Night clowns. New Horizons released in a new era of video games that tend to be more in tune with internet culture. As such, New Horizons has some slightly off-kilter dialogue that aligns more closely with oddball humor often found on the internet. Well, sometimes you convince a character in your campsite to replace the villager in your town. The former will mention that the other was already thinking of moving out. Why? Because of the night clowns. So apparently the developers at Nintendo really thought 2016 was in particular a very hilarious year when it came to seeing people dress up as clowns. It's no surprise internet humor has seeped its way into these games, especially since so many devs are shared with devs on the Splatoon team, who I feel are sometimes walking memes themselves. To be honest, though, the idea of killer clowns in Animal Crossing, specifically at night, makes me not want to stay awake to hear the 2 a.m. trap beat. Animal Shootout. This is one of those classic gaming urban legends from very early in the Animal Crossing franchise, back during the days of the GameCube game. The idea was that you could actually just unlock an M-rated game within Animal Crossing that would let you brutally dispatch the characters in the game using your axe. While the methods varied, they usually involved finding a way to break into Tom Nook's shop at night. There's no way to actually enter Tom Nook's shop at night except in the Japanese exclusive Dobutsu no Mori E+. And you can achieve this by hitting the building with your axe. This violent act will convince Tom Nook to open the door and reveal the crust between his eyes because you woke him from his REM sleep. And he'll sell you stuff at increased prices, and he'll buy stuff from you at decreased profit. I think this is just a great urban legend. Not only having the urban legend itself be so mysterious, as if like, can you do this? It feels like another L is real moment. And the fact that there was an actual game where you could do the thing that you needed to do in order to start the massacres, to start the animal shootout. The fact that there could have been footage out there on the internet in this early era that showed the fact that if you hit the store with the axe and it opens. I mean, I would have believed that. I would have believed that up until like last year, you know. Regardless, I love this urban legend. Dude, nothing like the secret kill all your friends option in the very E-rated game. Nowadays, somebody could actually probably make Animal Shootout a real thing. And if you do, please let me know. Or if somebody's already done it, please let me know. Because I really want to fulfill my dream of scalping the character Ozzy and just watching him bleed. The Wii U game. I can't find much on the Wii U game that was supposed to have happened. However, I do know that the Wii U Animal Crossing game we did get was complete dog shit. I really hope I never have to play it again. Not to mention that we got that very peaceful Wii U app that you could just see most of the Animal Crossing villagers in HD for the first time. Anybody else remember that? I forget what it was called. I remember when that app first came out, it basically confirmed that the new Animal Crossing was on the way for the Wii U. And seeing all these characters, for sure they must have already finished all the 3D models for it, meaning they're surely almost close to releasing the Wii U game, right? Months and months. Nothing until the Faithful Direct, where they showed Isabelle walking out of her hut. Then I saw it like a bullet in my heart. Are those spaces? Like from Mario Party? I fell to my knees. The bottle of whiskey I was holding fell beside me. No, not like this. Anyway, what we didn't get on Wii U, we got on the Switch. And I fully believe that if the Switch wasn't so fast to overtake the Wii U, we would have eventually got Animal Crossing on Wii U. And I think that's kind of what's happening with Pikmin 4 right now. Except that game was too far ahead, and it is being completely reworked now. 64DD. The Nintendo 64 was a console that probably outstayed its welcome, and the incoming add-on they called the Nintendo 64 disk drive, or the 64DD as it's better known, was just another reason the system couldn't die yet. However, not many would actually see the 64DD because due to a long delay, the sales of the add-on would not meet the company's standards, and it was quickly discontinued before it even released in other countries. While the 64DD faded into obscurity quickly, it wasn't quick enough not to have any games start development for it. A game known as Animal Forest was being developed for the 64DD, but the title didn't get very far before being ported to a standard N64 game. The game then became known as Dabutsu no Mori and released exclusively in Japan on the N64. This N64 version was later ported to GameCube in Japan under the name as we know it, Animal Crossing. Humans are going extinct. This is yet another theory about the strange fact that the villager seems to be the only human character in the whole series. As we spoke about in the first video, the only other humans in the games are possibly Zipper and also the old man Farley. A Reddit user kind of summarized the idea that humans are going extinct in the universe, and I quote, "I think the Animal Crossing series has always been kind of a wildlife preserve for endangered species, humans. We could even be the zoo animals, offering the experience of living and interacting with a human. They give us these novel and safe living spaces, give us goals like filling out a museum, paying off homes, and all the resources we need to complete those goals. They even bury and hide money in furniture and trees so we just stumble across it. Float presents on balloons over your head so we can gleefully shoot them down. None of the villagers ever truly engage with any of these. They don't decorate or upgrade their house. They don't plant flowers or trees. Have you ever watched one fish? There are no shadows in the water while they're fishing, and they never pull up the line. Dipshit Bunny giving up the shtick when we walk too far away, despite other animals, villagers still being present, is more supporting evidence that this is all a charade for something. They're humoring us. Weird to think, but hey, it's better than humans going fully extinct, right? Right? Inherent negative present at night. This was touched on a bit previously. The fact that the game may discourage players playing at night may have something to do with the negative feeling at night. Perhaps the devs knew their player base would probably be more kid-centered, and knowing that the game takes place in real time, they probably want to discourage kids from staying up all night and playing. Therefore, they sneakily added in subtle hints of discomfort all around at night. That way, kids would get scared and just hop off for the night and go to sleep. I could totally see this being the case for early games, but it could also just be a weird coincidence. I get it though. We fear what we don't know, and perhaps we don't fully know what's going on at night in these worlds. Artificial world. This final entry could have any number of meanings, but unfortunately the author of this Iceberg didn't divulge on this one. We can assume that maybe the Animal Crossing world as a whole is artificial to fit some sort of narrative, like the fact that humans are going extinct, or it can mean that the literal world that Animal Crossing takes place on is artificial. Remember that crazy math from earlier? If you told me New Horizons is actually just a Play-Doh ball, I'd probably believe you. Whatever it is, Animal Crossing is still a wonderful game, even if it can get creepy as fuck sometimes. And that is the end of this Animal Crossing Iceberg. I finally did it. If you guys want me to talk about more Animal Crossing, I'm actually just picked up New Horizons again. So the first video got a lot of attention and a lot of praise. I appreciate everybody who left a nice comment. But if you guys would like to see more Iceberg content, let me know. Or just more Animal Crossing content in general. As I mentioned before, this is part 2 of a part 1 video. Again, links will be in the description, and this will be part of a playlist of other Iceberg videos I did, so check those out if you have any interest in doing so. Please leave a like. These take a lot to produce, and I'd appreciate it. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.